The Chiefs caught a break, and they are staying home in the USA, and that's good for their 2026 season.
From the land of the free and the home of the Chiefs, this is the Locked On Chiefs podcast.
You are Locked On Chiefs, your daily Kansas City Chiefs podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome back, Chiefs Kingdom. Thanks for joining us today here on Locked On Chiefs, your team every single day. I'm Ryan Tracy, founder of Rogue Analytics and Performance Consulting, as well as NFL33.com. Get over there where we do film breakdowns and we cover the whole league, and RGR Football. You can find me there all the time. Chris runs KC Chiefs Corner. You can get more information there if you like to read. That's what we do. We are going to have a good time here because there's a couple of things that we should be concerned about, and there's plenty of things that we should not be. We're going to play that game coming up later in the show. Before that, does the NFL actually like the Chiefs again? That's the question we're going to answer. It just may be true. We'll find out. But we are going to start not with what the Chiefs are going to do. Schedule leaks have been a little bit slower today than maybe we were expecting. But I can tell you what they're not going to do, and I see that as a huge boon. Top of my list, Chris, we got what is the full slate, as I understand, of what the league is going to do. And it looks like this. Melbourne week 1 is, we knew the Rams and Niners. Great. Rio de Janeiro back in Brazil. Week 3, Ravens, Cowboys. Love to see that. I like to see the Ravens have to do a little bit of work. Come back weeks 4 through 6. That's like the English series. All in London. Colts, Commanders, also good for the Chiefs. Eagles, Jags, Texans, also good for general wear and tear. Then they come back, game in France.
Jags doubling up. Sorry, I'm sitting there going,
right?
Wow, okay.
Spending a couple of weeks there should be interesting, and I would expect that they do literally stay there. Then they come back for Paris in week 7, and it's Steelers, Saints. I don't think the Steelers are going to be a factor, but hey, it can't hurt to have another AFC team working hard there. Then Madrid. We talked about this yesterday. The Bengals are going to play that Madrid game against the Falcons. More power to Joe. Good luck staying healthy. Then they come back week 10, Munich. Patriots, another contender that has to go overseas even later in the season in the AFC. I love that. Detroit Lions, week 10 in Germany, in Munich. And then Mexico City wraps it up week 11 with Vikings. And yet the Niners doing it again. So we'll talk about what the NFL likes and doesn't like. But I'm ecstatic because this international schedule has 0 Chiefs on it. And I think that's the big takeaway from today.
Yeah, and I'm very happy to see that. It's interesting. There was a lot of questions whether or not the Chiefs were going to be getting a home game internationally. And if they did that, I think they only have 8 home games this season. So they would actually be down to 7 actual home games at Arrowhead, which I'm sure a lot of people would not be excited about. So that's something to consider, and I'm happy about that part of it. But you look at how this is going to play out. They don't have to travel. They don't go overseas. They get basically a week off or a year off of that kind of thing. And to me, that's a win. I know that there is, as Matt said on our show yesterday, I know that there are people in the Chiefs organization that aren't happy with it. But you know what? I'm happy with it, and I would bet that the football players and the coaches are probably happy with it as well.
Yeah, I have to think so. We will get to that part as well. But not having to do that, I still believe Brazil screwed them up, set them off on a path that made not only Xavier Worthy's, who I think was probably the most directly impacted player on that because of that injury, on play number 3 of the season. But I think it set a tone for the entire team for the entire year. So knowing that, you know what, you might have to play on Thursday here and there. You're going to have to play some Monday nights, some Sunday nights, but you don't have to get on that 10-hour flight from Kansas City to London or even longer to Munich, or God forbid going down to South America. So I think that allows the team to relax a little bit as well.
Yeah, and it's exciting because I think that the Chiefs are going to continue to try to push to play more overseas games, and I absolutely hate it. I don't think it's good for the organization. Well, let me rephrase. It's good for the organization. It's good for the fan base. I don't think it's good for specifically the team in general and winning that season. They've shown that they have the ability to do it. That's great, and I'm okay with that. But at the same time, it's one of those things where, yeah, and like I said, if they would have had a home game overseas, they would have played even less. I mean, they would have had 7 games at Arrowhead versus, 8, which it's still not a great home stretch or home slate of games, but it is what it is. When you're sitting there with the Jets and the Cardinals and the Raiders as 3 of the 5 teams or 3 of the 8 teams you're already playing.
But as I go back and forth between these two graphics, and folks, if you're on the audio, make sure you come back and check out the video. Take a look at those home games. Who's playing in those? San Francisco, Colts, Patriots.
Yep.
You look at this. Patriots, Colts, San Francisco twice, depending on when they do this. If the Chiefs face the San Francisco 49ers after week 12, they will have a team that is, I think, depleted. We know how hard it was for them to go to Brazil. Now they're starting in Australia, and they have to come back and go back to Mexico City, which, okay, it's closer to San Francisco than it is to Kansas City, but still, it's another out-of-country, a rigmarole, the whole headache of going internationally. Well, and I still think it's an advantage.
And it's not even that. I mean, yeah, it may be closer than Kansas City, but you can't tell me that the ability to get to stadiums, the ability to sleep in a normal hotel situation, and all of the normal travel stuff that you're used to, because the NFL has it figured out with the stadiums and where teams are going to stay and how they're going to get to the stadium and when they're going to get to the stadium and all the travel stuff. Remember, for those of you that have been listening for a while, Matt talked about this last season, going to Brazil and the nightmare of trying to figure out how you're going to get there, because some of these players will go get the first bus to go to the stadium, and that wasn't an option in Brazil. And I'm not trying to make excuses for why they lost. There's a whole bunch of different things as to that, but it does change your preparation and how you get ready for things. And when you're talking about NFL players, you're talking about guys that are creatures of habit. Yeah. Like, that's just part of things. That's how they do things. They get it set up for the season, and this is how they are normally used to doing it. And going international and having to deal with a whole bunch of different things is completely different. And that's another reason why you start looking at, going to the Super Bowl. Super Bowl week is completely different than everything else too. And that's a whole other ball game of dealing with the stuff that you're not used to dealing with. But at least you're in the United States, where they have things mapped out. You know where people are staying. You know how all that's going to work out. So it works to your advantage in that regard. But I'm happy they're not traveling internationally this year. But I guarantee you they'll be traveling internationally in 2027. That's just going to be how it's going to be.
Yeah, hopefully they're coming off of a Super Bowl win, so I ain't too worried about it right now. But that's not the only thing that they're not doing. There are a couple of nice things here, and I think it shows a little bit that the NFL actually does have the Chiefs in mind. That's next.
We live in a world where we can stream anything, order food in minutes, and carry supercomputers in our pockets, and somehow buying tickets to a live game still feels complicated. Hidden fees, jumping prices, endless steps. There has to be a better way. That's why I use the GameTime app. It gives fans the advantage and makes getting tickets simple, whether it's NFL games, concerts, comedy, whatever you're into. I jumped on the app to check out prices for an upcoming game, and it honestly took me minutes. You can see panoramic views from every seat before you buy. The price you see includes all fees, no surprises at checkout, and you can even spot zone deals where you pick the section and GameTime picks the seat for extra savings. 2 taps and you have great seats locked in. Fast, easy, done. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets. Download the GameTime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDON for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDON for $20 off. Download GameTime today.
Now, make sure, folks, if you would like to not listen to ads, if you would like to be in the Discord with us, where you can talk to just Locked On Chiefs fans as well as us, you can get over there at Supercast. It's lockedonchiefs.supercast.com. Check that out. That's the Everydayer Club. We would appreciate it if you give that a shot, because we're thinking of you, and I think the NFL is thinking of the Chiefs. And I don't want to dwell on it.
And there are going to be some people that hate that comment, but go ahead.
They can hate it. I don't care. I am an equal opportunity arguer. So as we looked at, yes, the home game is a good thing, right? Because you didn't want to lose another home game for going internationally, especially when you're on a year where you have more aways than you have homes. That's important. But take a look at the away list. Yes, you have the 3 division rivals, but Bengals, Falcons, and the Rams, half of the other away games the Chiefs have are other internationally traveling teams. And I think given the volume of the teams that we're talking about and how much 9 games of international travel lights up, I think giving the Chiefs that many other teams that are playing outside the country is an advantage. I mean, half of their schedule, 1, 2, 3, close to half of their schedule is going to be against teams that could have been traveling within the last week or 2 and still have that hangover. I think that's significant. And it tells me that not only did they give a little bit of credence to whether Patrick Mahomes was going to be available week 1 or not. And again, if you missed yesterday's show, folks, please come back, check that out. It was a great conversation with Matt Derrick. And I will reiterate that I think the league has talked to the team and the team thinks he's ready. And that's why they're playing week 1 on Monday Night Football. But I also think that they said, we got to make sure that we give them a fighting chance.
Well, it is crazy to me to see all the different people talking about the schedule and how this should be this and this should be this and this should be this. And yet you go and argue, and I'm not going to say you're wrong. I do think in some regards that the league has to look at this team and say, we have to make sure that they are going to be in a position that Patrick Mahomes is going to be healthy. And if he is, then we can do certain things. Because if he's not healthy, you're putting a bad game more than likely out there for people to see. And you don't want to do that either. So I do think that that has to be something that's in the back of their mind, is how they're going about making the schedule and whatnot. And I will say this, I'm also surprised. We're sitting here doing this the night before the schedule release, shocked that we only really have one game that we know of right now. We don't know the rest of where the Chiefs are. And we've started to find out some of the other games in it, but that also tells me that maybe Kansas City isn't going to get as many primetime games as they have in the past. I'm okay with that too. The question I have is, are they going to continue to play more 3:00 games versus going back to playing more noon games? Because I think from what I remember, they only had 2 noon games at all last year.
2 or 3, yeah. It was not much. And I too prefer the 3:00 game as well. But
I'm not saying I necessarily prefer it, but I wonder if that's what they're looking at. Are they going to look at the record and say, this was a bad team last year, we're not going to reward them with more? And it's not even really primetime games. It's more visible
nationally
games,
televised.
I guess is what you'd say. Yeah, nationally televised.
Yeah, the morning slate is always the biggest slate, right? And I think there are some things, a lot of teams practice in the afternoon. I know the Chiefs practice schedule for this year, but I think playing the 3:00 game is more akin to what you do every other day. And I think that's important. So I think that makes a change on your body and a change on your preparation. I think that's a good thing. But I'll tell you this, it's as much to know what you're not going to have to do as what you are. And another thing that the NFL has decided is that they're not going to make the Chiefs play this newfangled, we don't care that we already own the Thanksgiving weekend. We want Thanksgiving Eve too. Well, the Chiefs don't have to play that game either. And I think that is another thing that helps Kansas City from what used to be, because they've been so prominent, we're going to push them out front of every new thing that we do. Now it's like, oh, you're just another good team. We know you had a crap season, but you're still a good team, but we're not going to make you be the poster child for everything.
I will argue this. I'm going to reserve judgment until we actually see what the schedule is before I start being very happy about it, because the other reality is you're looking at a scenario where, remember, they decided this year that it's not considered a short week if they play, is it on Fridays? So now you're in a scenario where you don't have to necessarily have a bye week if you play on a Friday, and you could play a Sunday, Friday, and they're changing the way that they look at how things are going to be adjusted. And I just don't know how many short weeks are the Chiefs going to have, because that is what frustrated me so much Was it 2 years ago when they just had all these different games? They had like 3 games in 10 days.
Yeah, that was
Crazy
bad.
scenario. That was, yeah. And I'm sitting here wondering, when you look at how this is going to play out, is it going to be any different?
I think so. It feels like it's going to be. Now, maybe they end up having to play on Thanksgiving Day, although there's no Lions, Packers, or Cowboys on the calendar here. So we don't know. It could happen, though. If I had to pick one, I'm guessing Patriots, right? I'm guessing the league wants to put them back out front. If I know anything about how the league works, we'll find out. But it's
Could be
still,
Broncos
if
too.
it's Thanksgiving Day, I still think it's better than Thanksgiving Eve. So I will still take that.
Yeah, and I don't agree. I don't disagree with you on that. The other question, when you start getting in the schedule, and we're going to have an answer for you tomorrow, and we'll be talking about the schedule on tomorrow's show, is are they going to be playing around Christmas? Are they going to be playing around Christmas Eve? How does that play into this schedule? Because I will tell you this, it has been something that I have hated the last couple of years, because it's always one of those things where the Chiefs are going to play on Thanksgiving or they're going to play on Christmas. Last year, they played on both. Hope they don't continue that tradition.
Yeah, we're going to have to see. That's a tough one. It always makes it harder, and I know the players don't want to do it. Players would like to be home with their families watching somebody else have to do that. I don't want to cover it. I just think that it's such a captive audience that if the Chiefs, and remember, by Christmas we could have flex scheduling, right? They could still move that around. I don't think they will. But by then, if the Chiefs are doing, if they're having the bounce back season that I expect them to have, that may be exactly what we're in for.
Yeah, and we'll see. When we get back, we're going to be talking about no worries. Support for today's episode comes from Square, the system that helps fix one of the biggest headaches in running a business. Starting a business is exciting, but actually running it, that's where things can get complicated fast. Payments, inventory, staff, scheduling, online orders, it's a lot to manage. That's why Square brings everything together in one connected system. Square helps you take payments, track sales, manage inventory, and keep your business running smoothly without juggling a bunch of disconnected tools. One thing I've noticed at some of my favorite local spots is how seamless everything feels when they use Square. Checkout is quick, receipts are easy, and the whole experience just feels more organized. As a customer, it's convenient, and from the business side, you can tell it helps owners stay focused on serving people instead of constantly troubleshooting systems. That's what stands out to me. Square helps businesses feel more efficient, professional, and ready to grow. If you're starting a business or running one that deserves better tools, Square helps you sell, manage, and grow without slowing down. Right now, you can get $200 off Square hardware at square.com/go/lockedonnfl. That's SQUARE.com/GO/lockedonnfl. Run your business smarter with Square. Get started today. If you've ever opened your bank account and thought, where did all my money go? You're not alone. Keeping track of subscriptions, spending, and bills can get overwhelming fast. That's where Rocket Money comes in, helping you take control of your finances all in one place. So how does it help you track your finances? It tracks all of your subscriptions in one spot and can help you cancel the ones you don't need with just a few taps. It automatically categorizes your spending so you can actually see where your money is going. And you can set budgets, get alerts, and stay on top of upcoming bills. It just makes everything feel organized and gives you a clearer picture of your finances day to day. Rocket Money is a personal finance app that helps you find and cancel unwanted subscriptions, monitors your spending, and helps you lower your bills so you can grow your savings. Let Rocket Money help you reach your financial goals faster. Join rocketmoney.com/lockedon. That's rocketmoney.com/lockedon.
Do you know where you want to go with this? Because I am feeling today maybe a little bit more optimistic than I have in recent years.
Yeah, I'll let you go with it, but I want to talk about one other thing really quick that we didn't really get into. I really hope the NFL starts learning that they can't send everything to streaming services, because I think that this is going to get out of hand very quickly. And with the sending of all these games to streaming services is where you're also getting all these extra nights, which I don't like.
Folks, for your business update on the NFL, check out Casey Chiefs Corner and our overtime show.
Yeah.
With that PSA out of the way, I want to go into something a little bit more player-centric. Obviously, this is about the team and the logistics and moving that all around with the schedule. But all that is going to show like how stressed or not stressed the team is this year. And I think, again, that was a significant factor. So there's a lot of things to be concerned about. There's a lot of change on this team. But I want to go over a couple of things that I am not worried about. And top of the list for me, even though there was a ton of conjecture over the last few months, one thing that makes me feel no pain at all, I have no worries about Josh Simmons. I'm not worried about the injury. I'm not worried about the absence last year. The Chiefs certainly aren't, because they didn't make any attempt to do anything tackle-wise whatsoever, let alone a left tackle, when you had 2 first-round picks. If they had selected Fano or something like that, maybe you would have started to think, oh, it's not just about the right. Maybe they're worried about Josh or something else. Not at all. I have no worries about Simmons.
Yeah, it sounds like he wasn't even. It sounds like Fano wasn't even somebody that they were considering with their number 9 pick. And you look at, they were trying to get blue chip prospects, and the last one they had on their list was Delane, and that's the way the direction they went. So I agree with you. I don't think that they're worried about Simmons. I will say I'm a little worried about Simmons, just because I want to see him have a full season where he plays a full 17 games. And I do think that that's something that's going to be important, especially to see, this will be year 2. He's going to be in a situation where he's going to be thinking about money as soon as year 3 is over. So you want to put as many games under your belt as you possibly can to get you to a position where you're going to be in the best position to get a big contract after year 3, and not wait, because the Chiefs do have an extra 2 years on top of that. So something for him to consider there. When I look at this, really the thing that I'm not worried about, that I've worried about for the past several years, is the running game. And it's not necessarily just because of the new coordinator, but it's because they invested in the position finally. They went out and I never would have imagined, if you talked to me before free agency, and we kind of talked about this before it started, I never imagined that they'd really go out and get Ken Walker. I didn't think they'd want to spend that kind of money at the running back position. They proved me wrong. That tells me that they thought they absolutely have to get better at that, and they need to do it to help their quarterback and their offense. And to me, that's a huge thing. So I'm not really that worried about the running game, because they invested in it in multiple different ways. Not only do they invest with players, they also with free agents, they invested in the draft, and they invested in coaching, which all of it is going to help that.
I think that's fair. I will say this. The only thing they didn't invest that I'm a little bit salty about is they had an opportunity. And it's not just that they went out and drafted Quincy. They got McNeil Warren, Brailsford, Concepcion. Fano did go to the Cleveland Browns. Well, they also signed Mike Burton, and I'm a little pissed off about it. They had a chance to really improve this running game, and they chose not to bring Mike back.
You and the fullback, it's not going to happen in Kansas City. You can keep trying.
I'm gonna.
I know you are. Trust me, after 10 years, I'm very well aware.
All right, give me another one that you're not worried about. What do you think is squared away?
That's tough, because I think there's questions all over the roster at different positions. And it's not that I don't think that they will be good. I just think that there's questions, and until you see the players hit the field in training camp and see what they can do in training camp, you're going to have questions. You're going to have questions about the right tackle. You're going to have questions about the corners that are replacing the guys you lost. You're going to have questions on the defensive line about, can our Mason Thomas step in and be that guy when he's not what they typically look for. So you're going to have multiple different questions at all these different positions. The one thing I will say is you've still got a defensive coordinator and you've got an offensive coach and now an offensive coordinator that I think are going to work better together than they have in the past several years with Andy Reid and Matt Nagy. So I do think that's going to help. But the other thing, I think you have a defensive coordinator that is finally seeing this NFL a little bit differently and is starting to make adjustments, and that's exciting to me. So I'm not necessarily near as worried about the defense as I was headed into the offseason with all the holes that they had to fill.
Okay. I think that's fair. There's one other thing that really hit me, 2-3 days ago, and we were having a conversation, and it really made me take a step back. Now, I'm comfortable with it. Maybe Andy Reid is eventually going to get annoyed. Maybe it's not as comfortable or as easy as it has been the last few years. But I think you can start to see the changes going on. And Chad O'Shea, I think, is already making an impact. He's working on the wide receivers. You can hear that change. But he's not the guy driving it. He's part of it. And I think the changes in the coaching staff are significant. But it made me realize I don't have to be worried about this team being motivated and bringing a little bit more nasty to this game, because Eric Bieniemy is going to make sure that happens. Now, in the end, the media room might get tired of EB. Andy Reid might get tired of EB. Who knows? But I'm not going to get tired of EB because they're going to play harder on offense than they have in the last 3 seasons.
Yeah, and there's going to be attitude that there hasn't been. For sure, there will be attitude that there hasn't been on offense. And you absolutely need that. Like, this offense, I'm not going to say they got soft, but they got to a point where they didn't seem like they were attacking near as much as they have in the past. And I think that is something that this offense absolutely needs to do. When you have the best quarterback in football, and I still think he's the best quarterback in football when he's healthy, you have to attack. You have to use him as an advantage. And you can say what you want about the weapons around him. You can say that there's questions about Rashee Rice. You can say there's questions about Xavier Worthy. You can say there's questions about all the receivers he has. He still has Travis Kelce, who I think showed you last year, 2024 was more of a anomaly than it was the norm of what you're going to get. Now, he may take a step back because he's another year older, but you still have production there. I still think that Mahomes, if he starts the whole season, could easily throw for 4,000 to 4,500 yards, maybe more. Just depends on how involved they get in the running game and what Andy Reid decides to do on offense. And he could put up 35 to 40 touchdowns. So if they go out and they're aggressive and they come out with some new play calling like the team normally does year to year, I think this offense is going to be in for a renaissance of sorts.
Yeah, I like the way you think. And folks, on the run up to the season, we're going to cover Patrick Mahomes in depth at least once a week. We are going to have some fun Fridays. I don't know if they're going to get freaky all the time, but we're going to have some fun on Fridays. So if you're somebody that listens to one show or 2 shows during the week and you want to hear those 2 topics where we have some fun and a loose Friday where we get into some maybe predictions, maybe not, and you want to hear about Patrick Mahomes, tune in more because we are going to be here all off season. I ain't worried about that. I know you're not either.
No, I'm not. I will say this, though. That's not what this Friday is going to be. This Friday is going to be breaking down the schedule because it comes out, and that is going to be I'm looking forward to it. Like, I look forward to this every single year. You get an idea of where they're going to be playing and what are the bad places that they're going to have. This is one of my favorite shows every single year. We'll do predictions later on, but to give you a breakdown of what we think of the schedule, it's always a fun show.
Well, I hope you guys are ready for that. Chris is going to have fun. I'm going to be a stick in the mud because it's just the schedule. Games are going to happen either way. But I am going to make fun of people who get in bad situations. So not only will we break it down for you on Friday, I'm going to have some fun with it. So, hey, that's the way it's going to go. We appreciate you being with us. Make sure that you get on the Everydayer Club if you want the ad-free stuff and you want in the Discord. It's at LockedOnChiefs.supercast.com. Your team every single day. Thanks for being with us. Have a good one. We'll talk to you tomorrow.